On today's World Insight, the Beijing Winter Olympics wrap up with a bang. The moments of triumphs, struggles, and tears on the ice. What set these games apart? And music to the ears at the Olympics. Celebrated pianist Lang Lang talks about a powerful and inspiring collaboration with Italian tenor Andrea Bocelli and Chinese soprano Li Jia.
Winter sport was not that big in 2008, but this time made 300 million Chinese people into the winter sports, which is a tremendous inspiration.
Here is our host, Tian Wei.
Live from Beijing, this is World Insight with me, Tian Wei. A fitting end to the Beijing Winter Olympics. In 19 days of competition, records were broken and tears shed. But beyond the amazing athletic performances on ice and snow, the Games marked another milestone. Beijing is the first city to host both the Summer and the Winter Olympics, and the most gold medals were handed out in the Beijing 2022 out of any Winter Olympics. The IOC President Thomas Bach had high praises for the Games, with friendship forged and bridges being built among athletes from different nations.
These Olympic Games have been taken place in a moment of high political tensions across the globe. And there, the athletes, they have really demonstrated a great Olympic spirit here. And they have been ambassadors for friendship and understanding and peace. When I see Ukrainian and Russian athletes embracing each other here, when I see Chinese athletes offering their US competitors a pin set and showing their hospitality, when I see American athletes exchanging high fives at the opening ceremony with some of the Chinese volunteers, and so many more. This is really a great display of the Olympic spirit and of the mission of the Olympic Games to be beyond any political disputes.
So what about the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics? Three panelists joining us from different parts of the world. They have their own versions of the story. For answers in Washington, D.C., Lisa Delpi Narati, the Director of Sports Management Programs at the George Washington University School of Business. In London, Ian Fitley, a winter sports commentator. And in Beijing, Justin Downs, President of Axis Leisure Management as winter sports consultant. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us when the Winter Olympics just wrapped up. Lisa, what about that game for you?
These were my 21st consecutive Olympic Games, and similar to 2008, Beijing really knows how to host events. Everything was thoroughly organized, and as the Games went on, it became more relaxed, and you could hear the cheers in the crowd.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Everything relaxed. That's very good. That's what sports events should be about, except those competitions in the court. Justin, what about for you?
Oh, look, I mean, you can't pick out one particular thing. It was an unbelievable couple of weeks of fantastic excellence by our sportsmen and sportswomen. But for me, as I was here when we first even dreamt up a bid almost 13 years ago to 7 years ago when we won the bid, to see what we actually achieved here over that period of time, not just in getting these Olympics together, but how this whole industry has come together and just how well China performed on the global stage. It was really quite something. Very impressive.
Justin has been using a lot of we. You know, Justin originally is coming from Australia, and he is also a Canadian citizen, now working for both the athletes and the delegations from different parts of the world. I love that word, we, Justin. Keep it up. And Ian, what about for you, this game?
Yeah, it was a fantastic game. So there was just so many exceptional athlete performances across all the sports. But so many emotional moments as well. It wasn't all about the athletes that got on the podium. A huge highlight for me was just how emotional Shaun White in the men's snowboard halfpipe was. And I think that's the power of sport. It wasn't just about the winning. It was throughout every discipline, every event, the passion, the pride, the respect that all of the athletes showed was there for all to see. It was truly exceptional.
This is especially challenging this year, not only for the athletes, but for everybody, because we are dealing with a pandemic and a variant at this point as we speak. So how did you see the 2022 Winter Olympics could leave some kind of experiences and legacies for future Olympics, which likely are still going to struggle with the pandemic? Lisa.
Well, we hope that in the future we won't have to do a closed loop again, but the lessons learned are very applicable. I mean, people followed the rules. They wanted to be safe so the athletes had their opportunity to shine, and that's what it's all about, is making sure the athletes have a great field of play and have an opportunity to perform. And the rules put in place by the Beijing Organizing Committee allowed that to happen. So we will keep those rules as much as we can including spectators in the future, obviously.
Justin?
Look, I think there was so much trepidation and nervousness amongst everybody that was thinking to come here. You know, for many, many months in advance, the athletes were stressed about, will they be able to perform at their level based on how they're able to train? Were they going to get COVID before they got here? Were they going to get COVID on the way here or when they got here? It was just so stressful. But what the organizing committee was able to do was de-stress the whole environment. People got here and they were able to focus on what they've trained their whole lives for. And that was great. And they actually had a great time and have walked away with the very highest regard for the experience. I think this is a very unique experience, and I think people have taken a lot away from it.
Ian, what about for you? You know, when you look at the athletes' performances, it seems that they have been really triumphant this time.
Yeah, the athletes performed at the highest level, and I think that's a testament to their ability to deliver on the world stage in that moment. It was so challenging going into these games for the athletes, as you were saying, about not knowing the situation in terms of will I get COVID on the flight, and ultimately I think the system worked very, very well. There was a very small number of athletes who unfortunately couldn't compete, but on the whole, everyone pretty much got to compete, and I think that just is massive credit to the organization for allowing these games to happen in such challenging circumstances and pulling off what was a fantastic show.
The protocols are very important, and as a result, both the BOCOC, the organizing committee of the Beijing Winter Games, and also the IOC have been repeating once and again, everybody follow the rules and we're going to have a safer game. It seems that it's been delivered.
Oh, look, without a doubt. The playbook, as it was called, was very, let's just say, very hotly anticipated. And it came in several editions, but it was very thick and very comprehensive, but it was also very clear. And once people understood what they had to do, they all of a sudden calmed down.
Right.
And when they got here, they understood that there was a plan for everything, and there was no chance that things were going to be disrupted. So they had anticipated every single variation of anything that could have happened, and they executed on it perfectly. So it was well done. It was well mapped out.
But now, you know, it's very important not just how the game is being held, but also what's going to be the legacy of the 2022 Winter Olympics. We all know one of the most important things about Olympic Games is it's not just about the game itself, but also about how the games will benefit, you know, the country that has been hosting it, the people in the country, and the people around the world. What do you think, Justin? You've been working for different delegations, you know, Norway and Australia, many others. So what do you think gonna be the legacy of this one?
Well, I mean, if you look at the legacy to China, it started when the bid was announced, and all of a sudden, people knew about winter sport, they knew about skiing, and they started to participate. So even though the people were getting more active and looking for a healthier lifestyle, the Olympics really shone a beacon on this and encouraged more and more people to get into it. But there's still tens of hundreds of millions of people that have not yet got involved in the sport. So the legacy is, for China, is that we started at a fairly low starting point compared to another more mature winter sport nation. We still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
And I think the rest of the world actually now realizes that China is an important part of the global winter sport industry, whereas before they probably just scoffed at the idea that China was a winter sport nation at all. So I think that there's a legacy to China, and there's an important legacy learned for the rest of the world as well.
300 million people on ice and snow. Well, for the future, there will be venues and convenient locations being created for these people once they are really into winter sport. That's going to be another challenge for China, I guess, for the businesses as well. Lisa, what do you think is going to be the legacy of this one?
Well, bringing the snow to the large population in Beijing with 50 minutes of a beautiful train ride is really going to boost your winter sports activity. I was impressed by the use of the 2008 venues. That's a huge legacy of those games. And then the building of the wonderful ski resorts up in the mountains connected to a high-speed train, I think is really going to propel winter sports in China. And then there's the afterglow effect that happens in every host country of all those young kids watching the TV, and now they're excited, they're joining clubs, they're going to be practicing sport. I've had some Chinese alumni contact me and show pictures of their kids, running around pretending they're Olympians. So I think it's a great opportunity in China.
I saw many of those videos as well in the moments on WeChat and also on Instagram of my friends as well. Well said, Lisa. Ian, but moving forward, how do you see this legacy is likely to stay with China and also with winter sports for the world?
I think we've seen China perform to an exceptionally high level in a number of winter sports, and I think that will inspire the next generation of young Chinese athletes. To pick one example, Su Yiming in the men's snowboard big air is doing things that nobody else in the world is doing, and China now has the opportunity to develop those athletes with the wonderful big air facility in Beijing. But I think longer term, we have to look 4 years' time, 8 years' time to see where China's strength increases in other disciplines. So alpine skiing, for example, is a discipline that takes a little bit longer to reach your heights in. But I think that we started to see athletes coming through. But I think particularly in the freestyle and snowboard disciplines, which are my specialty, we've already seen China have some success, and they had exceptional success. So I think that will be the legacy over the next few years, is building the strength and depth in those programs. But I'd also like to see these venues continue to be used on the World Cup tours. We were supposed to be in China last year for the World Freestyle Ski and Snowboard Championships, and unfortunately that had to be cancelled. So I think for international snow sport competition, we have to be spreading around the world away from the big nations, Austria, Switzerland, Italy all the time. And China has exceptional venues, and if they can continue to be used in the future, then that is a good thing, not just for China, but for the sports as a whole, to make it more global.
From 2008 to 2022, Beijing has hosted 2 games already, one summer, one winter. But what about for the Olympic movement and for the IOC? We know the IOC has been struggling because of the pandemic about its future and also about huge sports events future. Justin, tell me more about your thoughts in this regard.
Well, I think we've seen the Olympic Games have to evolve over many decades. There's changing preferences of the viewer. There's new sports that come to be more interesting, and they evolve. The way that stadium management and the amount of people that are actually interested to come versus those that are interested to watch, different age groups and demographics, they have to continue to evolve. And they really need, obviously the challenge is how to make the Olympics affordable for a country to host them. And I think that's the most important part that they're going to be challenged with. And I think that's going to change the whole playing field of how we go about it in the future.
Justin, Lisa, Ian, thank you so much for being with us. I've been with you guys throughout the Winter Olympics, and thank you so much for your insights and telling us your version of the story. Really appreciate that. Have a great day and have a great evening.